Welcome into another episode of Shot Callers. Today we're joined by Mike Nichols, the Chief Business Officer of the Symetra Tour. And Mike, it's a good time to be in the Symetra Tour, right?
Absolutely. We've had a nice little run here of late. Back in 2013, we were playing 15 times for about $1.6 million in prize money. This year we're playing 24 times, which is the most tournaments we've ever had since 1988. And we're playing for $4 million in prize money for the first time. So it's really, we've seen a nice little growth period here of late.
And for you, what has contributed to that growth factor? I'm sure there's multiple things.
Yeah, so I mean, really there's two big things. When I first started with the tour, it was all about, we had to look at how we were selling the product, working with our partners, and our tournament model, frankly, was broken, and so we had a lot of turnover. The first year, 2013, I started in July of 2012. In that first sort of 6-month period, we were able to add we were able to add 4 tournaments, but we lost 5 in just that 6 months. So when you add 4 tournaments and you lose 5, you think, well, I did a lot of work and we're going in the wrong direction here. So we had to fix that tournament model. But then secondarily, we had to look at the companies that we were approaching. I think we were trying too much to be the LPGA Tour. I mean, the LPGA Tour is a good B2C opportunity for global brands who are trying to reach a mass market, and that's not really our strength. Our strength is really in the B2B space. So we really had to look at who our partners were, who we were approaching, and sort of setting the expectations for what we could do well, which was really deliver a B2B experience in the local communities in which we play.
And I think that's a little bit of a different sell, right? B2C global brands is really a lot different from B2B brands. I'm sure there's an adjustment period, right?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, and it's a lot harder to sort of identify those companies that maybe sort of take the blinds off of, okay, well, how many impressions am I getting for this? That sort of thing. So, and that's a challenge, is sort of getting past that CMO or that gatekeeper who that's the first question is, well, what's the TV look like? What are our impressions? And so we had to say, look, that's really not our strength, but if you'll sort of hear us out, here's what we can deliver. And we feel that in the golf space, we deliver the best sort of value B2B experience. And we can take the tour to essentially any community in the country. That's one of the things when you look at some of the places we play, like a South Bend, Indiana, or Albany, New York, or Sioux Falls, South Dakota, maybe not communities that necessarily could host an LPGA Tour event on a week-to-week basis, but they can have a great Symetra Tour event and deliver that sort of opportunity to see the next generation of LPGA Tour stars before they sort of graduate onto the LPGA Tour.
When you come and you're approaching these brands and these fans and these sponsors, what is the pitch and the sales process to say, you know what, you should invest in the Symetra Tour, and here's why?
Right. So when Symetra first joined us, they were sort of a challenger brand, as we're a challenger tour. Maybe arguably still are a challenger tour, but we'd like to think we're growing out of that a little bit. But for them, it was an opportunity to put their name on an entire tour that for them they were trying to get in front of folks in the banking space, as well as putting their advisors out there and try to build the business in the B2B space of the tour. So for companies, Symetra is obviously not going to be there forever, but so if we're making a pitch to a new company, I would say, okay, here's what we can do. We can deliver you 24 markets in which you can entertain customers. So, and the thing that's good, we've got the good news that we play in major markets like Charlotte and Atlanta and Orlando, but we also play in some secondary markets that maybe are harder to find opportunities to entertain folks. I mean, it's very easy if you're living here in New York, you can take people to a Knicks game, Rangers game, Giants, whatever the case might be. But what do you do with the folks in Sioux Falls, or what do you do with the folks in Albany or Rochester? And so one of the things that we found with Symetra is that we've delivered them a lot of markets that maybe are sometimes hard to figure out what are the opportunities to take care of our top producers or our top folks in the field who are selling, or our customers or prospective customers. So I think that's one of the things that we do quite the best, is we create a turnkey solution for Symetra or any company who's got their name on the tour to say, the tour will provide for me this opportunity to play alongside of these professional golfers. I can bring out my best clients or prospective clients for 5 hours on the golf course. And we have anecdotal evidence where some folks have brought folks out and written a $500,000 premium just from that day on the golf course. I mean, that pays for a lot of your sponsorship costs. So it's really that, and as well as we're able to generate through, obviously, the advent of social media has really taken place in just the time that Symetra has been with us since 2012. That's really taken off. And so for a brand, we can deliver multiples of what their investment is, just in terms of the earned media that we get and the coverage of the Symetra Tour name in various publications. that in and of itself pays for itself multiple times, and then almost the 24 markets that we deliver in that client entertainment experience around the country becomes sort of a bonus.
And you're talking about these players from around the world. These are now the ones who are coming in. It's a pipeline, like a minor league baseball maybe, or something like that. How exciting has it been to see? I know you even mentioned that the person who's #1 on the money list qualified through the Symetra Tour for the LPGA. So I'm sure for you that's been an incredibly exciting opportunity to see what it can really provide as a development tour.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is that we, in calling it the official qualifying tour, we want people to look at this and say, these are professional golfers playing at the highest level, and all they're doing is looking for their opportunity. The most fun day of the year for me is the Sunday of our tour championship, when we award those 10 cards and you see the families out there in the audience and sort of these young ladies realizing their dreams. So it's very cool. But what's really changed from now versus back in 2012, back in 2012 all the way to today, we've been graduating the top 10 players onto the LPGA Tour, but the 10 players that we've graduated over the last 2 or 3 years are actually staying now. So we had a problem sort of in the 2012, 13, 14. The players that we were sending up weren't they weren't maintaining their card and they were coming back. But over the last 3 years, I believe 9 of the 10 players that we've graduated to the LPGA Tour have maintained LPGA Tour status, which is huge, and as a percentage is obviously impressive. But I think it shows 2 things. One, the quality of the talent that we're attracting to the tour to begin with, but also that sort of the rigorous schedule we're putting them on, 24 spots all around the country, that's identifying those players who have the chance to succeed on the LPGA Tour when they get there.
You're talking about these communities, you have 24 of them now. When it comes to choosing the communities, when it comes to working with the communities from a Symetra Tour side, and what are you looking for? What has made some of these appealing, and what are you most excited about for these new ones that you've brought on?
Yeah, so a lot of it, as with anything in golf, it really starts with the sponsor and identifying the sponsor. So for example, we play in El Dorado, Arkansas, which is a very small community that you wouldn't otherwise know, except that Murphy USA, who is the convenience store gas station you see outside of Walmart's a lot, they $2.5 billion company based in El Dorado, Arkansas, and they said, we want to have a Symetra Tour event here in our community. So a lot of it's finding those sort of communities. We have a tournament in Florida, the Florida's Natural Charity Classic, a town of Lake Wales, very small community, but that's where the co-op of Florida's Natural, the orange juice brand you'll see in your grocer's, supermarket freezer, that's where they're based. And that tournament over the last 11 years has given back $1.8 million to their local community through hosting the event. What they do, it's a little bit interesting, and why it's worked from a B2C standpoint, is they've taken that event and they've turned it into sort of an annual meeting of all their business partners. So they bring in their business partners, they contribute, they sponsor the event, and it allows them to give more money in the community than maybe anything else they could do in a community that size. So it's really just sort of finding the community match with the sponsor and sort of making sure that everybody's expectations and goals are met, and understanding what those are from the get-go.
Yeah, and I think understanding is a big part of the fact that you've gone from 1.5 to 4. It's a pretty significant jump for a tour that is still on the rise.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely. I like to call it the 6-year overnight success story. It's one of those things where it doesn't seem like you're making progress, but sort of little by little we said, this is the formula, this is what we think is going to work. And so that first year when we went from 16 to 15, and then the next year we're able to get to 20 events, it's like, okay, now we have a formula that works. And even with the 24 events now, we only have 8 remaining from the time back in 2013. So we've still had to sort of grow and turn over the events and sort of find that next generation of Symetra Tour partners. But that having been said, we have a tournament this year that's been on our schedule for 35 of the 39 years that the Symetra Tour has been in existence, another one in Albany that's been around for, I believe, 32 years. So we have some long-term partners, but I think as people are seeing the value of the tour, we're not only in the corporate community, but in terms of the players that we're starting to attract. So we have players that are coming from over 40 countries around the world. So for the players who are aspiring to play on the LPGA Tour, this is the place that they come, knowing that if they finish in the top 10 on the money list, they can find their way onto the LPGA Tour next year.